And now moving on to our segment. Yesterday we were talking at the crib, and we're watching this 1998 NBA Hardwood Classic Finals Game 6. Michael Jordan versus the Utah Jazz. And oh my gosh, like we're out here. I know it's September, it's mid-September, and we're fiending for basketball. NBA tip-off is October 4th, so we'll finally be able to get some live action there. But right now, I mean, the other day I was trying to watch a Thursday night football game, and I had to get a free trial to this Fubo app, and they have this Hardwood Classic stuff on there. So I figured I might as well throw it on. I haven't really been able to watch Jordan, do his thing because I was one. So it's like, I can't really butt in on the GOAT conversation or not, but we're watching this and we're trying to think of segments to bring in that's a little bit different for the show because it is the off season. And I think it was you, McClure. You're like, maybe we should do because, maybe we should do like a disappointing finals loss type thing.
Well, the reason that idea struck was because I'm like looking at this Utah Jazz team. And I'm like, John Stockton, Karl Malone, those guys were bad boys, man. You had Stockton, one of the best passers in the NBA's ever seen, and you got one of the most prolific scorers in all of the NBA in Karl Malone, and they just weren't able to get it done. And that Game 6, man, we're watching it. I was like, dang, who's winning this game? Although I knew the Bulls were going to win. I'm like, wonder what happened here. And at the end of that game, after Jordan got the layup to give him to get it within one, and then he did the crossover for the game winner with the hand that no one could see. God. It was absolutely filthy. John Stockton with like 5 seconds left got the ball back, and he had it at the top of the key, and he had a good look for three, man, and that would have forced it to Game 7. And it's just kind of, you saw the disappointment because they showed the post-game interview with Karl Malone on the Hardwood Classics, and you could just see the disappointment. And I kind of struck that idea, in recent memory, like who was a team that should have won the finals, and it was just a disappointing year. They probably could have won it. I mean, this is a Bulls team that won 5. And Jordan was at the end of his career, but still they won 5. But this is Stockton and Malone, and they probably look at themselves in the mirror saying, "Man, we had it." And that's where this segment came from.
Yeah. So for my most disappointing finals loss, it's gonna have to be the Golden State Warriors in 2016 to the Cleveland Cavaliers. They had beaten them the year prior. They come in the next year. And this was a 73-win team in the regular season. They were supposed to be the best team ever. It was kind of reminiscent of like the Patriots whenever they had their undefeated season. This was basically the NBA equivalent. Nobody's ever going to go undefeated, but losing 9 games in the regular season out of 82, that's it. Oh my gosh, this team was incredible. I mean, they had all the usual suspects: Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green. They had Harrison Barnes, Andre Iguodala, Sean Livingston, and then a bunch of role players. But they absolutely were crushing teams in the Western Conference playoffs. They had so much heat. They had so much history coming in with them. They had the better coach in Steve Kerr against Ty Lue. They had 3 of the best 4 players on the court, I would say, with Kyrie coming in at number 5, which he hits that clutch shot in Game 7. They're up 3-1 in the series. I thought it was over because I watched this whole series with my dad, and it was like you watch Game 1 and 2, and they're in Oracle, so you really don't expect much from this team. And then they take it back to Cleveland. Cleveland crushes them in Game 3, but then they drop a disappointing Game 4. And right there, after that game, I'm sitting at my dad's friend's Mike Young's house, and we're watching the game, eating pizza and stuff. And it's like, oh no, there's no way. There's no way they're coming back from 3-1 against this team. Are you serious? They can't even score. But also, the big thing that happened in that game was Draymond kicking dudes in the nads. He had been doing it all season. He came up in Game 4, kicked more players than that. He got suspended for Game 5 in Oracle, and that was the point where the Cavaliers really gained the momentum. They came in Game 5, slapped the Warriors around. Game 6, slapped them around again. And then, I mean, probably the craziest Game 7 that I've ever witnessed as far as playoffs are concerned. It was incredible to watch LeBron James limping up to the foul line and Kyrie burying the most clutch three I've ever seen in my life. Me and my dad were on our way back from the Oakmont golf course because the U.S. Open was that week. We had tickets, so we were there that Sunday to watch the end of that, driving back home, listening to it on the radio. It was the craziest thing. We're both so excited because we were both huge LeBron fans. It was just a great moment, but it's just a terrible, terrible loss for the Golden State Warriors that really got in the way of them railing off 4 in a row.
Yeah, that was an unbelievable NBA Finals, and this is they were down 3-1. And no team in the NBA has ever done that until LeBron did. It was just unbelievable what he did and what that Cavs team did. And you're right. When Draymond Green was suspended, it just totally turned the series around, man. They won Game 6. And even in Game 7, you really didn't think they were going to be able to get it done. I mean, you knew LeBron's the GOAT of this NBA. You can debate Jordan or LeBron. That's for another day. But he came in Game 7, and it was – you're right, man. That was one of the best games I've ever watched. It was unbelievable. And when Kyrie hit that shot, when he faded away and on the wing for
butter.
3, man, it was butter. I got goosebumps watching that. I mean, and I'm not even a Cavs fan. But just seeing the joy of the fans was unbelievable because they were still on that drought where they haven't won anything in 50 years. If you've ever seen Believe Land, 30 for 30, which is great. Check it out if you haven't seen it. But that was it, man. It was it. And then they won it. And that was the best of those Cleveland Cavaliers, Golden State Warriors finals, without a doubt.
But like this team, you needed like 3 uber defining moments for the Cavs even to get over the hump. You had to have, first of all, the Draymond Green suspension for one. Then you had to have the Kyrie 3, which will forever go down in history. And then you have the block. Which was amazing. It was
chase down.
The chase down and then the block. Just smashing that ball right off the backboard. Iggy didn't even know what was going on because
he thought he had a wide open layup.
Oh my God. It was incredible. That was like just an incredible feat of athleticism there from LeBron James, one of the greatest athletes of all time. This dude, absolute baller. I mean, I love the guy. And this series was by far and away, for me, the most disappointing loss out of any finals.
Well, and if you think about it too, that Warriors team that went to the finals, like they had to play the Oklahoma City Thunder in the Western Conference Finals, and they were down 3-1, and they made that comeback. Oh, yeah. And remember Game 6 when Clay hit like 11 threes, and he was just like, oh, butter. I mean, it was. And then they were up 3-1 and they blew it. I mean, it's just unbelievable. You can't make this stuff up. You really can't. And I mean, they won 73 games. They were like the best team in the NBA by far. Remember at the end of the year, they had the Golden State Warriors. They were going for their 73rd win. And then on ESPN2, they had Kobe's last game where he dropped 60 against the Jazz.
Yeah, but he took like 85 shots to get it. Yeah, oh yeah.
Like that's what we were dealing with. And then they blew that 3-1 lead, and you're just like, they came back from 3-1, and then they blew 3-1. So they've been in the both scenarios, just unbelievable series. Now we're going to go to my disappointing NBA Finals, and this is one of LeBron's worst moments, I'd say. Or it was kind of, towards the middle of his career. He got drafted by the Cavs, and he was this phenom. And then, they lost the 2007 Finals to the Spurs, and it wasn't really going anywhere with that Cavs team. So he moved to Miami with D. Wade, Chris Bosh. And it was the first year that they were all playing together.
Not 3, not 4, not 5.
Not 6. Just it went on and on and on and on. And The first year, I mean, this team was unbelievable. 58 wins, only 24 losses. Eric Spoelstra, the guy was a genius. I mean, that year they were everybody's favorite to make it to the NBA Finals, and they really had no like competition really in those playoffs. They beat the Sixers in 5. I remember watching that series. They lost the game 4. They were up 3-0, and Lou Williams hit a big shot in game 4. Then they played the Celtics in the semis, and they were up 3-0 in that, lost the game in overtime. Then they played the Bulls, and they lost game 1, and then they won the next 4.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. They've lost 3 games in the playoffs thus far in this year, and then they get off to a hot start against the Mavericks. And this is a good Mavericks team here, but they were still the underdog. Dirk, Jason Terry, J.J. Barea, that team. And they won game 1. And then they lost game 2. And that was really, I think, the turning point of that series, because they really they weren't tied at all in that series, like moving up to the playoffs. We're tied there. Then they came back, won game 3, and then lost the next 3. I mean, that is a total collapse. And that was like, and that you watch all the ESPN shows and everything, and everybody was like, is this guy LeBron James the king? And that was a serious question after this series against the Dallas Mavericks. And hey, Dirk was the GOAT in that series. He hit some big time shots. They were dominant. They had great role play from other guys. It was just a really, really just a series that I never really thought was ever going to happen, because the Miami Heat were just dominating like through the playoffs, and then they hit a wall. That game 2 loss, man. And what happens? They win in game 3 and then lose 3 in a row.
Devastating.
Like, that's devastating.
That was absolutely devastating.
That is devastating.
It was like it was sickening too, because like I'm a big LeBron guy. Like I love LeBron James, and he had not won anything up to that point, and that was one of the things that like everybody was dogging him for was, will this guy ever get a chip? Is he ever going to win rings? Jordan's got 6 rings. LeBron still has 0. How can we even compare the two? And at that point, you really couldn't. And then even after that season, you couldn't, because of LeBron's just hilarious collapse. And you look at the scoring leaders for some of these games, or even rebound leaders, and LeBron shows up on none of these stats. He was totally just a ghost. I think the Eastern Conference, he played like crap playing through that too. Mm-hmm. He wasn't that big against Boston. He was pretty good against the Bulls, but and then against Dallas, he was an absolute ghost.
No show.
I didn't understand it at all.
No
watching that game, I'm like, really? Dwayne Wade is going to be your best player, and Chris Bosh is going to be your second best guy?
He shrunk under the pressure.
He really did.
And like you saw that series probably stayed with them the next year, because they went obviously to win it the next year. And do you remember that game the next year? They were playing Boston and they were facing elimination. I think it's one of the best LeBron games ever. When he dropped 45 in TD Garden, he yammed it over Terry. Oh my gosh, that was the game that really snapped the fingers and was like, hey, I'm the best player on the planet. I need to get a chip. Yeah, I need a chip, man.
We had so many questions to prove. Like, it was just like there were so many questions to answer and so much to prove at that point. It was just like, dude, he has to go and get something done, because you're a player that caliber. How are you not going through with this? Like, just how are you not putting that team on your back with that many superstars? I understand it wasn't the deepest team, and that's kind of why I don't have them as my number 1 collapse. And that the Dallas Mavericks were a relatively deep team, in my opinion, for the time. They were pretty decent, and just like, but Miami was rolling out guys like a Mario Chalmers that really wasn't doing much, or a Mike Bibby, or a Udonis Haslem, trying to squeeze the most out of Mike Miller, who didn't have a role on any other team
besides that team,
other than that team, and that was to shoot threes.
Stand in the corner and shoot threes. And if you realize, like, towards like the other runs, the Heat, like Udonis Haslem didn't play a role like he did in this one.
Not at all. And this was a Heat team that that didn't that just they look soft kind of at times. They relied way too much on their star players. It really was like the first super team that I've ever encountered as an NBA fan was whenever they put it all together with the decision, with LeBron coming there. And it was just like, and then you saw them go out the next year and get Battier, to really solidify that roster.
Like a way better Mike Miller.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody who can actually come and give you defensive minutes, play real defense, and then they went on to win chips. But this year, it was everybody talked about them. They were supposed to be they were the hottest team for basically the whole year. Didn't even quite capture that 1 seed in the East, but that's the regular season. This is the playoffs, and it was an absolute collapse to. Well, Dirk Nowitzki was awesome, and this was an old Dallas Mavericks team that had been around for a while with Jason Terry and Sean Marion, the most awkward shot that I've ever seen in the history. Yeah, it's
alligator arm.
Yeah, it's so strange. Like it's kind of like a Lonzo Ball type shot.
It's
there.
Worse. It's worse.
I don't know how that ball goes in, but he made it go in a younger JJ Barea.
He played a big role in that finals.
Oh, he was a boss,
right? Like I thought he had some big moments in that series. And that was, and hasn't really been the same player since then.
JJ, yeah, I mean, we're talking JJ Barea. Oh yeah. He was huge.
Yeah.
He was the guy who was getting most of the assists for that team. He was dishing it out, finding Dirk in the right spots, getting him so he can do the little fadeaway step back that he likes to do. It was just this Dallas Mavericks team. Nobody thought they were going to win. Which is why it was a collapse by the Heat. But was it a good team? I mean, they were good enough to tear through the West that year, which featured some pretty decent ball clubs. It's just this wasn't the deepest team. They had a young Ian Mahinmi, didn't really see too many minutes. Mostly just went 7 deep, as opposed to the Miami Heat, which went 5 deep. That's it.
Yep.
They were 5 deep with Haslam playing the 5. He was 30 years old, and he really couldn't get much done offensively. He's a hammer. He's a hatchet man. He's going to lay the hurt on you. But is he a 5 that you want to take to the finals and really give a lot of minutes to? No. Come on.
No.
This
exactly
epic collapse by the Heat, and to lose in 6 too. The thing is not even to lose.
Yeah, they lost on their
7.
home court.
Yeah, disgusting.
They lost on their home court. I mean, it was just like LeBron just shrunk, man. He just shrunk, and it's unbelievable how he just wrapped his head around, okay, and you saw what he did after that and just dominated the NBA, went to final after final after final.
Yeah, I mean, that started a long run of, what is it? What would we count? Eight straight?
Eight straight.
8 straight. It was just – LeBron was a ghost, but then, on the other end of it, whenever we're talking 2016, he was the man. Yeah. I mean, he was absolutely clutch. Yeah. He put that team on his shoulders, and Kevin Love, he missed a game, and Tristan Thompson was pretty good back then on that team. J.R. Smith was your 3rd leading scorer. Still, to beat a 73-win team on the other end of it, just a transformation of LeBron in the finals. It speaks a lot for experience, I think, that he can get something done like that, because it was Golden State's 2nd final of all time. I think they got lucky with injuries there year 1 whenever they beat the Cavs in 2015, and 2016 the Cavs were kind of pissed, and LeBron was certainly pissed. So that's very interesting to me, just the maturation process of LeBron James going from Miami to Cleveland, and just these totally 2 different LeBrons that we see in these finals appearances.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, LeBron, from that series in 2010 to that series in 2016, you just saw a growth. He was clutch. And like you said, he just needed that experience, and he came through in the biggest moments. And we'll see if he does it in LA now.